Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. On today's episode of Garage Noise, we're going to continue on with this Dodge 2500 repair. Last week we repaired the left fender on this truck, and if you haven't seen that video, check it out. I'll leave a link at the end. But today we're going to tackle the rear part of this truck, which includes this tailgate, the bed floor, and the bed side. We need to replace this tailgate, and we've got the new tailgate over here. We're prepping it out for paint. We also have some floor damage that we're going to pull out. We're going to fill it, paint it. We're going to do it all today. So stay tuned. Let's dig in and get it done. And stay tuned till the end if you want to learn how to get that mirror-like reflection in your clear coat. Okay, so I'm using my little Lincoln handy MIG, and we're going to weld on a piece of metal right here to pull this crease out. And then I can dolly these high areas down, and then eventually we'll get this little indentation out. So I'm just going to tack this right in that crease, and then I'll move down this way. Okay, let's hook this up. Okay, so I just hooked up the pulling tower and the chain fall in order to pull this dent out. Now I did not tie down the truck because it's not going to take a lot of pressure to pull this out and dolly this around. So as you can see, this crease is come out here. I'm going to grind this down, and then I'm going to move to this section right here. Pull that out while I dolly this high area because it's stretched a little bit from me pulling it. So as I'm putting pressure on this dent from the pull, and then I'm hammering down the high areas, that's going to release that pressure in that dent and help it to pull that dent out. So I'll continually be tightening up this chain so it's putting more pressure on this dent, and then as I hammer it and it releases, I'll continue to tighten it down until that dent is gone. So now I'm reaching in behind this metal with my dolly, and I'm going to hammer down and flatten out all these areas that are a little wavy. It's come out really well. This did not come out fully just because it's right on that crease. I even drilled a hole and tried to slide it, but it's just ripping out. So I welded it up, and I'm going to fill this little indentation here. I'm going to smooth it out with some filler, and it'll be more than sufficient for what he's looking for. So now I'm going to sand the surrounding area with some 180 grit on my little sander here. Just smooth it out, get it prepped out for some filler. We're going to fill this with some Roberlo Maxi Light. This is a easy sanding filler. You can sand it with 80 grit or 180, but it sands real easy even with 180. I'm going to knock it down with some 80 grit here on my orbital sander. Get it smoothed out. We'll have to fill a few little areas, and then we'll get it prepped out for primer. Okay, so now we're going to use some 320 on this soft block, and I'm going to get this edge, this rolling edge right here, and we're going to roll it over. We're going to have to fill this little spot right here, but I just want to get this a little bit straighter. Block it a little bit. So now I'm going to fill some of these little pinholes and pockets with some Roberlo crystal glaze, get that smoothed in there, and then we'll sand it out with some 180 grit and then go over it with 320. Do 180 on this and then go over it with 320 and we'll tape it up for primer. So the gun I'm using for my primer today is the 3M AccuSpray gun. This has kind of been my go-to gun for primer. I'm not really doing so much painting with this particular gun, but it's a good primer gun and it's easy cleanup, and that's mainly why I love it. If you haven't checked out the review on this gun, check it out. I'll leave a link at the end. Okay, so now Darius has tacked everything off to clean it before we start spraying the base. I did a few little dent repairs on this rear part of this tailgate, and we're going to base it and clear it, and we're going to clear the back side of the tailgate first, and then we'll let that dry and clear the other side. So I am using the Segola 3300 GTO today. It puts out a real nice finish. If you haven't checked out the review on that gun, check it out. I'll leave it in the description. As far as the settings I'm spraying this base with, I'm running 20 psi on the air pressure. I've got my volume turned to 2 turns out on the volume. My spray pattern is wide open. So when you're spraying base, you want to have a consistent speed, a consistent distance from the panel, and that distance should be 4 to 6 inches away. Now all these settings vary depending on how you spray and your environment, the gun, but those are good baselines to spray base with. You can go a little bit more pressure if you want it. I just prefer to keep the overspray down as much as possible. I'm spraying in an open garage, so that's what I like to do. Okay, so now we're starting to spray the clear, and I want to give you my tips so you can get a mirror-like reflective finish in your clear coat. So the first thing you want to remember if you want that mirror-like finish is you need to use the right materials for the temperature you're spraying in. Your clear coat activator needs to be the right activator for the temperature you're spraying in. If you're in a real hot environment, you need to use a slow or extra slow activator, and wherever you purchase your paint supplies from will give you an idea, but anything typically above 70 degrees you need to be using a slow activator. This is important when you're spraying your clear coat, because if you're using a medium or fast activator in a hot environment, you are going to be putting down some texture in your clear coat, and that's not what you want to get that ultimate mirror-like finish. If you're using the right activator, it allows that clear to flow out after you've sprayed it. So you spray it on there, and as it's curing, it's flowing out just a little bit, and it's giving you that nice flat finish. So the next thing you want to be aware of for that glass-like finish is your fan pattern. Your fan pattern needs to be consistently parallel with the panel you're spraying from top to bottom. So the distance from the edge of your spray pattern to the panel should be the same distance at the top of your spray pattern and at the bottom. It's a little bit hard to explain, but you want that fan pattern to be parallel with the panel when you're laying it down. This allows the clear coat to hit the panel evenly and flow out at the same rate. Before I give you the rest of the tips, we need to prep out these bedsides for paint and clear. We're going to sand over it with 600 grit sandpaper on the orbital sander. If you're using an orbital sander, be careful of the body lines and edges. You don't want to burn through those. So now that we have it all prepped up, we're getting it taped up here, and we're ready to spray our first coat of base. Now basically what we're going to do, we have a little primer area on that bedside. We're going to cut that in, and we're going to blend the rear of these both bedsides. And we're doing that so we have a good color match between the bedside and the tailgate. Okay, let's talk about the rest of the tips for a mirror-like finish. Now this goes for base coat and clear coat. You always want to overlap 60 to 70% on your fan pattern. So when you make a pass, you're going to overlap 60 to 70% on your next pass. The next thing you want to do is you want to make sure you have a consistent speed. It doesn't matter what the speed is. You can go slow, you can go fast. That just depends on how you like to spray. But you want to make sure it's going to be consistent. This lets the paint and the clear coat lay in a consistent manner so you get the best finish possible. So we already talked about your fan pattern hitting the panel consistently distance from top to bottom. You also want to be a consistent distance away from the panel at all times. So even though you have to go around a corner, you want to keep that spray gun at a consistent distance when you go around that corner, like on this bedside here. Especially when you're laying down your clear coat, because your clear coat, you want that clear to hit that panel consistently, to flow out consistently at the same rate, so you have a nice mirror-like finish. And typically the distance you want to be away from the panel when you're spraying is 4 to 6 inches. So the next thing we want to talk about is the settings on your gun when you're spraying clear. And this is something that everybody gets confused about. They want to know what is the perfect air pressure setting when I'm spraying clear. There really is none. It just depends on the person, the gun you're using, the environment you're spraying in. There's a lot of factors that factor into that. What I like to recommend, a good baseline for clear coat is 26 psi on your pressure and 2.5 turns out on your clear coat. This is a good starting point. Now, you may have to bump up your volume just a little bit from 2.5 to 3. And if you bump up your volume, you bump up your air pressure. But the main thing is, what you want to do when I'm spraying a panel, when I lay that clear down, I'm watching the edge of my spray pattern and how it's laying down on the panel, how it's flowing out, and how it looks. And then I adjust from there. If it has a little bit too much texture, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bump up my air pressure a little bit to help that to atomize a little bit finer, so I get a flatter finish. Now if it's dry, you're going to have to bump up your volume and maybe dial down your air pressure. Evaluate the clear coat as you spray and make adjustments. And it's all comes with experience and practice. If you want to learn how to spray clear, watch the pros. When I was learning how to golf, that's how I learned how to golf. I watched the pros and then I tried to emulate their swing, and that's how you do it. So if you see here, you can see I'm making consistent passes across the panel, a consistent speed. My distance is consistent. And I'm also keeping my spray pattern parallel with that panel. And in a few minutes here, we'll check out the finished product, and you can take a really good look at the reflection in this paint. So follow these techniques and tips that I've given you. It's not that difficult. It's just putting them into practice and making them a habit. If you follow these techniques and tips, you're going to be amazed by the clear coat you put down. There's no doubt in my mind. And I want to hear from you. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. But let's finish up this paint job and take a look at the finished product. Okay, so let's get ready to take a look at the finished product. Listen, if you like this video, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, like the video, hit your bell notification so you don't miss any videos. But check out that finish. Look how flat and glossy that finish is. I mean, everything looks good on camera, but this came out extremely nice, and you can do this at home. There's no doubt in my mind. Let's go ahead and pull this truck outside and take a better look at it. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Shoot me a comment. Tell me how you like the video. I appreciate each and every one of you watching these videos. And if you haven't subscribed, please like and subscribe.
Oh, let me up with a bright smile on now. Put me in the dark, so won't get lost now. To the moonlight, eyes you are real right now.
Click on one of these videos now to build your skill and increase your knowledge. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.